What is up, everybody? It's me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea. And tonight I am joined by the winner of season three, Ascendance Live, a 7-2 vote, vulnerable 12 times, voted correctly every single time except for the one time he threw his votes for his ally. I'm here with Marcelo. Marcelo, what is going on? How are you?
I am doing well, Duke. Thank you so much for having me. I have been really excited to step into the pod and talk with you about this crazy wild game that just flew by. These 15 weeks just like flew by. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I'm just excited to be here. And yeah, this is going to be fun.
Marcelo, I did have a little thing in my that I left out of the intro.
Oh,
No votes to your name. No votes to your name this entire season,
no votes to my name.
except for the seven for you to win. But
Yes,
Marcelo,
yes.
my first question for you is obviously you had some familiarity with the format of the game, having played online.
Mhm.
Walking into this live setting, was it what you expected, or as you know, you got there, was it like, wow, I did not expect this.
So like walking in, you gotta be like, oh my God, yeah, I was so prepared to walk in and be like, game on. But like, no, walking in, I was like, oh, there's no like computer screen. Like these are like actual people, like we're literally like seeing each other face to face. So everything I thought about, because honestly, like the fact that I was standing while everyone was walking in, the people before me, I was like standing behind the fridge in the kitchen, like hunched over. Like I was literally like hiding so no one could see me. And I was literally staring at a wall for like 15 minutes. And I kept hearing like footsteps, but obviously like I'm not gonna recognize any footsteps. And I heard laughter and I didn't recognize any laughter. So I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be the last person walking in. I don't know if I'm gonna be like the like I had no idea. So walking in was crazy because you're just like, oh, it's real. Like this is like there's no stopping. Like you are going from right now until the end of the game. But before my thought process was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna like know exactly what's happening, and that is the exact opposite. I did not know what was happening. They twist after twist after twist. So
Twist after twist. I want to ask you about the power that you end up finding. You find a swap teams power pretty, somewhat early on in the game.
mhm.
Never used it. Did you ever have any inkling to want to use it on an ally? That power specifically, it kind of just never got played.
So I want it because while we were playing the card game in the beginning, like the first episode, you see like those card games, Looney Labs, shout out.
Shout out Looney
We
Labs.
we I like was noticing that there was a card that said like I think I have it. Oh, I do. Hold on, I'm gonna bring it to you. Give me a second.
Oh, awesome.
I
Live
just saw
look
it.
into the power from the game.
So flex, whatever. And then it said hint, keep this start timer first. And so obviously in Ascendance, you're like, literally anything could mean anything. So I was like, does this start like when we start the game? Like, is that the timer? Like, do I have the power to start this entire game? Do I have the power to end this game? Do I have the power to send us all home? Like
That'd be
after
kind of
night one?
crazy.
They were like, and y'all can go. No, but I like saw it, and then CJ had the same exact card, so we kind of figured that out in the Menage a Trois. And we kind of like we're like, oh great, like we're on the same team, so this might mean something. So I knew that there had to be something in the timer, so I was like, all right, let me go see what this is. And I don't know because when I was watching the challenge and seeing like Ollie and Ozzy like miss it entirely, I was like, it was like right there. Like it was literally like if this was the timer, the power was right here. Like you could see both at the same exact time. So yeah, I grabbed it, and then I mean, I think I had in the online version, I think either myself or an ally of myself had the swap teams, like I knew what it was about, but an inkling of ever using it, not really. There wasn't ever a time where I was like, oh, I need to use this. I think towards the middle of the game when it was like Billy versus Sarah, like that whole thing, maybe I could have used it, but I never felt like I needed to, like I had to. So sad to waste a power, but like I didn't need to use it.
Kind of cool that you could say that you never, really needed the power. It's
Yeah.
something to bring, something that, but Marcelo, you had a historic kind of opening to the game. Besides the round that you were, unpicked and safe, you were, vulnerable for the first 8 eliminations of the game. Um, I guess my question is, how difficult was that?
Um, Not easy. I can tell you that for a fact. Um, Being vulnerable, like my everything, I just like I felt like I was running I was sprinting. Everyone's like, oh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, no, I was like, it's sprint. Like I was sprinting because they only give you 20 to 25 minutes to strategize before the elimination. So like day one, I literally had to do that. Day two, I had to do that. Day three, like I never the only time I had to like a break to myself was that the one where Josh penned it in AJ. So like that was and but that was such an unfamiliar feeling. Like I was like, oh, I'm safe. I don't have to do anything. Like I don't have to run into rooms. But like 8 back to back like eliminations that I had to go to, I was like, and I never felt safe in any of them because like this crazy game makes you paranoid that like everyone's talking about you or no one's talking about you. So to answer your question, it was very difficult.
Do you think because you're in the mix every round, right? You have to strategize, you have to make sure that you're not getting voted out. Do you think that even though, you had the possibility of being voted out, it was still kind of an advantage because you're talking to people, you're in the mix and you're building trust through voting every single time here.
Oh, absolutely. I think and this is no fault to any person who didn't go to like the first couple eliminations, but like I said, like you are constantly talking to people, you're constantly making deals, you're constantly making plans. You're making plans for the next round. You're like, okay, once this is over, what's next? And I feel like sometimes you can get lost in that of like, oh, I'm safe, so like let me just like relax for a round. I mean, some people definitely like were walking into rooms and talking, but going to elimination round after round, you were mostly focusing on like connections. And I feel like that, as much as it was a downfall that went to so many eliminations, the positive aspect of it was that I was talking to so many people that like I did solidify bonds and I could show my trust at the eliminations.
And it's so funny that we get to, this image at the end where it's the final three and it's you and AJ on opposite spectrums. And, we look at it just from taking a step back, you going through the journey that you went through with, all the eliminations that you're attending versus AJ having won, pretty much being vulnerable the entire game. It's just
Yeah.
like, wow, look at the difference there.
Yeah. I think that was a big thing about that final three was like I went to basically every elimination. AJ went to not he went to eliminations, but he was always safe. Or if he
Yeah.
was vulnerable, like I mean, you talk to him like he was vulnerable 3 times and 2 times he went home. So
Yeah.
like, you know, so there's two stories there. And I feel like that was I I just was like, oh, like I like if I can survive this final three elimination, like if I can survive, like then I know that like my name has never been written down. Like that's a story, that's a case, and like here we are.
But I want to step back into you mentioned it earlier, the Billy versus Sarah vote. I thought this was a
Yeah.
huge, inflection point in the game. You were a part of it. You originally were on the wrong side of the vote. You voted for, Sarah to go home, and then in the revote, you switch your vote, um, basically to avoid a potential tie.
Yeah.
Run me through that vote from your perspective and kind of like the decision to, ultimately switch over and avoid a potential rock draw.
Right. So we lose that challenge, and my immediate thought was, because not even my immediate thought, like early game, everyone's like, teams got to stick together, like red team for life, like red team till the day we die, like a red
That's
team
just bullshit.
forever.
That's just bullshit, right?
That shit's bullshit. That is such bullshit. You're just like, yes, like I'm not gonna say no. I'll be like, absolutely not. I'm not, no, red team till
Yeah.
no. So I remember the four of us, me, AJ, Billy, and Ollie, being like, all right, we're gonna protect each other. This is gonna be what it is. And then I'm hearing Sarah's name, and I'm like, no, like I don't want to do that because Sarah is someone who I am in an alliance with. But Billy is someone who I've been working with since the beginning of the game. So, and Sarah as well. So it's like I'm caught in the middle of two people who I am genuinely wanting to work with in this game and go far in this game.
Right.
But like Billy was set on Sarah, Sarah was set on Billy. Like it was kind of just like it's either this way or that way. Like I felt like there was no middle ground. However, what they kind of showed at the end of that round, I wanted Ali out because that
If anyone says my name, Duke Farley, they're gonna go home. Like for real. I have this mentality, okay? If anyone targets me, they're gonna go home. It's been proven many times, man. And
I was like, Ali needs to like why are we focusing on Billy and Sarah when like Ali is in the game? Like I just felt like Ali was playing one of those games where it's like right in the middle that like no one's gonna touch Ali until like the end. And then Ali's gonna sit in the final two and like that's a story. So I was like, why are we focusing on these two big players? Let's focus on Ali. But I think that was too little too late on my end. But going into the round, I was like, okay, I can work with Billy in this game. Billy is someone who is always going to be a shield to like literally everyone. But it was Josh who came up to me and was like, yeah, I think all the like the majority is going on Sarah, and like AJ was voting Sarah, and then Ali, like, and then like the red team was voting Sarah, and then Josh was literally telling Sarah the votes are going on Billy, and literally telling Billy the votes are going on Sarah. So like in my head, I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm hearing a majority is going on Sarah. So like I don't want to be in the minority of this position. And then they didn't show this, but Billy takes me into one of the rooms and says, I have this, and like literally shows me a physical pendant. And I'm like, he's like, I will use it on you if ever the case may be, which I don't know if that's true, but like, whatever. Great, amazing, thank you. Um, so I was like, perfect. I will vote Sarah. Like it hurts because I don't want to, and obviously, like you see her and I have that conversation. Like that was really hard because like Sarah was someone who I genuinely like really, really, really just wanted to work with till we couldn't work anymore. And then so me voting Sarah was because I heard that Sarah was getting the majority of votes. The thing that made me a little nervous was when Rocky came up and played the power. Rocky had told me about the power, so I like knew about that. But I was like, no, like save it for like another round, like save it, like we can use it for another thing. But like I was trying to like tell Rocky like with my mind, like I was like telepathy, like don't do it. But Rocky did the move. It was great. Um, so obviously the vote comes out. It's 5-5. This is where I think for me, I saw the writing on the wall for Billy. Because if he was so confident that he had all the votes, he didn't play the pendant. He can't play the pendant on a revote. I can go do damage control with Sarah. Billy will be gone. The pendant will be gone, so no one has to focus on, oh my god, this pendant that like could change the name of the game.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay. Billy told me he had a pendant. He's like screaming at Josh. If no one like noticed, I was like out of it. Once they were screaming at each other, I was like, this needs to end. This needs to stop like immediately. So yeah, then I was just like, you know what? Let's get a power out of this game. Billy's a great player, but like, and probably would protect me, but I feel like Billy's the type of person that like I don't know where I stand on his tier list. Like I could be a number one, I could be a number two. For all I know, I could be a number three, like all this type of stuff. He didn't play the pendant. So I was like, you know what? Let me save face and vote Billy out.
Yeah. Was there ever any consideration for you to like stick to it, like try to go to a tie, or was it like was that was that a factor in your decision making? Like you didn't want it to be a tie too?
Um, I it's not that I didn't want it to be a tie. I just was like thinking about it logically. I was like, my allies voted Billy and I voted against my allies. So to like maybe make matters better, just vote with my allies on the revote. Would I
Yeah.
have gone for would I have gone to Rocks for Billy? Billy told me after the game, and I don't think Billy would go to Rocks for me. Like so I wasn't gonna go to Rocks for Billy. Like love Billy, and I feel like had it been another round, had it been like final set like 7 or 8, potentially, but like right before that jury mark where like, everyone's like, I don't want to get first boo. I want to make jury. I want to win. Like I was like, let's solidify to an next round.
Yeah. Um, and in my exit interview with Billy, he mentions like totally understands.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the Kira blind side. I thought it was a brilliant move. Always fun watching a 3-2 to 1 vote, kind of play out in these games,
Yeah.
whether it be Survivor, Ascendance, obviously flushing a pendant. I I gave you a lot of credit, you and Taylor during this episode of, kind of making this happen. So I wanted to ask you to kind of just walk me through your side of everything that happened here. I know there was a lot back and forth, potentially CJ kind of throws Kira under the bus. Like just walk me through like how you deciphered what you guys wanted to do here.
So going into that challenge, I it was kind of like, had I not won that immunity challenge, individual challenge, I feel like I probably would have gotten blindsided or like voted out. I just feel like my paranoia was like, there's gonna be a plan where like Taylor, AJ, like I don't think Taylor or AJ would have gone after me, but I feel like Kira could have potentially like played a pendant. So once I won that, I was like, okay, like we can do something because no one can throw my name out this round. So my mindset going in was I wanted CJ out. Like that was just, I thought this was the perfect time to get CJ out, the whole last round with AJ being blindsided and, you know, CJ giving Josh the pendant and like all that type of stuff. So Taylor and I were talking, AJ and I were talking, like this is when AJ and I kind of solidify our bond and kind of want to go after CJ. But again, CJ kind of like throwing Kira under the bus to me was like, okay, like maybe because I had no idea. They were really good. They both were really good because I had no idea they were that close. I had no idea that they like obviously we knew each other, but like I had no idea that was like learning that after the season. I was like, oh, okay, great. Because I remember CJ telling me about the whole like battle back situation in that other game and like standing 8 hours with someone. And once he told me that it was Kira, like my mind just like was like, oh my god, like what? This is crazy. Like in game, like when you're thinking like everything's happening. So seeing Kira have that pendant, my fear was that if there was ever a chance where Kira was safe and CJ was in danger, maybe Kira would play the pendant for CJ. So in my mind, it was like, great, one of them has to go. And Kira is an amazing social player. Like Kira has social game for days. So I knew if we didn't get Kira out then, she was probably going all the way because she had connections with Ozzy. She had connections with Rocky. Like she had a connection with Josh. Like she had people. Like she was going to be protected. So I think Taylor and I came to the conclusion that we need to blindside Kira because if Kira has any inkling, and I feel like hearing Ozzy and Kira's exit interview, had they had any inkling, like Kira would have played the pendant and CJ would have been gone. But to me, I was like, maybe I can keep CJ for like another round. Let's see if me and CJ can build off this specific relationship at this specific point. So, but I didn't want Kira to know, and Taylor didn't want Kira to know. So it was like, we got to plan for a 3-2-1. And I love a good 3-2-1 because like it just comes out of nowhere. But a good 3-2-1 has to be like calculated. It can't just be like you, me, and the other person. We're voting this person. You and like it was just. And the thing is, no one could talk to Ozzy. Like Ozzy was literally trapped in a pantry. Like Ozzy was literally nowhere to be found. And that was the hardest thing in the world because I was literally like, and Prod was nasty for this because Prod was like, oh, Ozzy, you have to go straight into the next elimination. Like Ozzy didn't get like a 5-minute buffer to like talk to us.
Yeah.
So me, Taylor, and AJ are like planning for this, like who votes where. And CJ was like, we'll vote Kira. And I was like, great. And then AJ voted CJ. And what they didn't show, which I was like, oh, this would have been such an amazing part, was that before the elimination even happened, Ozzy, like, no one's talked to Ozzy. So, like, I'm sitting here, CJ's here, Ozzy's there. And I'm like, no, like, I need to, like, get to Ozzy. So, like, I give CJ a hug and I literally like, point to CJ. I'm like, Ozzy, vote him out. Because, like, because I want Ozzy to think that, like, CJ's the vote. Goes down. Papa says, if anyone has anything they'd like to play, now is the time to do so. And when Kira didn't play anything, I was like, another pendant gone. And Kira left. And it was one of those moves where I was like, that could have, if one step missed, it would have literally been over. And the plan would have been CJ would have gone, but like Kira would have been sus. It was just like, it was a perfect way to just get Kira out because I was pretty like, I didn't have Kira and I like had a connection, but it wasn't like the strongest in-game connection. Absolutely love Kira outside of the game. Like we have a really great connection outside of the game, but like in-game, I was like, Kira needs to go. So
it was a brilliant blindside for sure. I thought one of the better moves of the season. There's a lot of great moves this season, but one of the top moves I thought of the season. And it's funny because I remember Ozzy's mentioning that what you had done in terms of like pointing to CJ to kind of signal him. But he was in the dark there. So it's interesting because he says that if you guys had clued him in on what was happening, he probably would have tried to give her a heads up. So I thought that was smart of you guys as well. Say Ozzy is able to get out of the closet and talk to you guys. Are you would vocally steer him towards voting CJ in that position?
yeah. I felt like Kira and Ozzy had like a connection that was, if CJ was Kira's number one, I feel like Ozzy was probably Kira's, if not number two, number three. Like Ozzy was in Kira's top three. So I knew that if we had given Ozzy any inkling of that Kira was the vote, it would have gone another way. So had Ozzy gone out of the pantry, we would have just been like, it's CJ, like vote CJ. because I feel like at the time Kira wasn't going to vote CJ. Like Kira would have thrown the vote on AJ, and it would have been a 4-1-1 or whatever. But
Yeah.
knowing that, I was like, to make Ozzy feel more comfortable in the plan, I feel like getting him on CJ, like that was what needed to happen.
Now, post this elimination, once once Ozzy has voted incorrectly, did you ever get any backlash from Ozzy for kind of steering? You never did.
No, Ozzy was blindsided, but I felt like it leads to like, obviously the other thing about this game is like once one round ends, the other just immediately begins. So you're just like,
On to the next.
oh, okay, great. What happened? And you're like, I'll tell you about it next round. Like, and you're like, it's 3 rounds later, and you're like, finally we have a break. Oh, you remember what happened in like 3 rounds ago? Like we can talk about that. It's like, but I did this 2 rounds ago, So yeah.
So you kind of hinted at it early on in this interview with the menage a trois. You come up with the priority. First of all, did you come up with that name before the season? Is that a name that you wanted to have happen, or it kind of just flowed?
It just kind of flowed. I have no idea
Okay.
what. Hearing Sarah say that it sounded like a car dealership, like it did. I don't know. I was just like, when you're seeing like reality shows and you're like, they're coming up with an alliance name, like every name like has like a because what I remember what we wanted to do was the three of us plus three other people. Like we each gravitate towards like a number. So I remember it was like, I think if I don't know if I don't know exactly who was in it, but like if I remember correctly, I think it was because we knew Sarah and Maddie were close. So like there was like a potential there. And I know CJ and Billy were sharing the same room. There was like a thing there. And I remember I might have been like, oh, I'm getting good vibes from Rocky. So like there might have been something there. But I felt like, okay, there's the six of us, but we're the three, like we're the priority. So like that's kind of where it came up. But no, I wasn't like on the plane to kind of see like my first alliance is gonna be called the priority. Like, no. If I had time, I probably would have came up with a better name. But
Yeah, I was just curious how the name came about. But talk to me about how seriously you took, this alliance of yourself, Sarah, and CJ throughout the game. I know there was some bumps in the road for sure, but
yeah.
yeah, just talk to me about, was that a serious thing for you, or was it kind of like round around, if we're on the same thing, we'll figure something out, we'll check base.
It was
That's good.
serious in the beginning of the game because I was really happy to be on a menage a trois with two people who I had no connection with whatsoever. I had no idea who Sarah and CJ were before this game, and getting to talk to them was something that I was like, okay, great. Like this could be a new connection that we can form. And the three of us kind of clicked on that menage a trois. Like we were just like talking and drinking wine. Like it was just like a really nice time. So I was like, great, these people could be people I could work with. And then CJ and I went to basically, if not every elimination together, like we definitely went to more than 3 eliminations together in the pre-jury phase. And we were usually on the same team. So, or went to the eliminations together. So, yes, there were bumps in the road, but I was serious about it until there came a point where I felt like it was, I just felt like there was disconnect that like, Sarah has been on separate teams than the both of us. And then like CJ and I, like CJ's closer to Emily and CJ's closer to like Emily and Josh and Ollie and like that side. And like I'm not close to that side. So like I'm on the other side. So it was serious until I felt like I wasn't kind of like I just felt like we were kind of like naturally just like we kind of went separate ways. We always wanted to come back to each other and like discuss like if we were ever in a group setting, but then I always felt like I just always felt weary of CJ. Like there was something that I was like, there's gonna come to a point where we're gonna go like head to head.
Yeah, and I want to bring up, there's one moment in the game where I feel like you kind of lose your shit. And that is the tie vote once Josh he uses his pendant again.
Yeah.
and there's 2 votes on CJ. There's 2 votes on Ozzy. And you just kind of call them out. You call them out. Talk to me about the frustration there, and talk to me about what created that for you.
Um, I so walking into the like final 8, like I'm literally like I say it in I think my voting confessional, like I'm walking into a final 8 situation where I'm in an alliance with CJ and Sarah. I have a thing going with Taylor and Rocky. I have a good connection with Ozzy and AJ. And I have like Josh and I haven't gone after each other. So like there's some sort of like camaraderie there. Like Josh and I are not on the same page, but like they're
Cool.
yeah, we're cool. They're a bigger fish to fry. So I was like, okay, like I am here in the final 8. Like I can kind of just not be too comfortable because I never wanted to be comfortable in this game, but like I can just kind of like let the cards do as they must and do as they do and see what happens. And then when AJ when AJ comes up to me and says, "Hey, this is what I'm hearing that you, CJ, and Sarah have this alliance day 1, like from the Menage a Trois," and I'm like, because earlier, like couple rounds, like we were kind of just like chatting about how this is like going really well, and like CJ and I are kind of just like getting back into our groove, and like you know potentially like there have been votes that people wanted to do CJ, and I was like, nope, let's do another person, or like even the Kira vote, like it could have been CJ, but like we switched to Kira and like all that type of stuff. So when AJ's like, oh yeah, you were thrown under the bus, like it shocked me. I was like, oh shit, like I'm getting found out, like because throughout this game, like my name had never really come up, and then we're in a final 8 situation where like my name is now being brought up in a negative way of like, oh, you lied to me about being in this like alliance, and like as much as it was an alliance, but like as much as it wasn't formulated towards the end of the game, like people can use anything against you, like, oh, you're in an alliance that I'm not a part of, like I'm going to target you now. um so I was just like blindsided by that. And then the other thing is when it was a tie vote and it was between CJ and Ozzy, I was I voted Josh, and Josh
Yeah.
played the pendant. So it's CJ versus Ozzy. And if you look at like the charts, like Ozzy never really lied to me in this game. And I felt like CJ kind of had done me dirty at times. Like respectfully, like there were moves that CJ did for CJ's personal game that like had an effect on me and like all this type of stuff. So yeah, I was like, okay, now is the time to like talk about it. Like we're just gonna talk about it in front of everyone. Like you did this, and what's gonna happen now is that we're gonna address that like you threw us under the bus, and I'm not like I don't have any words to say other than like this is how I'm feeling. So like let's talk about it. And then when CJ's like kind of going at Sarah and I was like looking back on it, I was like, that's 2 votes. Like Sarah and I are 2 votes that could fully like if we wanted to, we could flip on Ozzy and like vote Ozzy out and like keep it together. But like saying like, oh, you and Sarah are like running this game, like if y'all get to the end, like y'all are going to the end together, like you're in an alliance with Josh, which I wasn't. It was just like all these things, and I think it just the game just got to me, and I was like, no, this is how I'm feeling. Like let's just go at it, and I think. And then once it was like bringing Taylor involved, and like Taylor and I had such a good thing going that I was like, no, like I don't need Taylor against me. Like that would be the worst situation. So because Taylor and I are kind of like vying for the same role in this game of like the perfect person in like kind of the middle situation where like we are talking to everyone. So when CJ was like, Taylor, you can make a move, like you can do something. But then once it was like Rock situation, like again, I wasn't gonna go to Rock. So yeah, it kind of all boiled up to a point. And I had my frustrations in the game with CJ, like going on and on through the game. And then I feel like that was just the point where I was like, you know what? at the end of the day, it was good TV. So
It was a couple follow-ups off of that response for
please.
you. Do you think that having seen CJ throw Kier under the bus a couple rounds before, and then kind of do something similar, to yourself and Sarah there, do you think that you kind of got the like frustration that they're like, oh, I've seen this happen before, I don't want that to happen again to me?
Yeah. I saw like I was getting flashbacks to the Kira situation. I was like, okay, so if you can do that to someone who is known to be like your number one ally, like number one, like your ride or die in this game, you can do it to anyone. And I was like, you're not going to do it to me. Like, you're not going to get these people to turn on me. Like, if anything, I want to make this point that like I'm going to do everything right now in my power to make people vote you out.
Yeah. And then the other thing I had to say was, say AJ doesn't come to you and cue you in on the fact that there's the rumor mills are going around that you're in an alliance. Like, that's not brought to your attention prior to how this vote is going. Was there a chance for CJ to garner your and Sarah's vote and keep the alliance strong and you guys vote out Ozzy, or was there enough damage done prior to you getting cued in where you were like, I'm gonna vote CJ out here no matter what here?
I think there was enough damage done. Also, the fact that Sarah had mentioned to me before, like, what if we throw our votes on CJ? Because everyone had their suspicions that Josh had something, which Josh did.
A lot.
So a lot of things, yeah. So I think, yeah, and I had more. I feel like Ozzy and I kind of had more of a connection and more of a game. Like Ozzy and I always checked in with each other just to make sure that we're all good. So yeah, I feel like if I had to choose between, if I had no knowledge of that whatsoever, and it was a tie between CJ and Ozzy, I know Sarah's closer to Ozzy. Sarah's not going to vote Ozzy, and then yeah, I feel like I would just have been more inclined to keep Ozzy in the game.
So the next round is another huge round in the game where watching the episode as it happens, where Sarah is blindsided, it is kind of portrayed that this was, spearheaded by Rocky. But as we see this finale and we see the jury roundtable, we do kind of get clued in that you were a big, vocal component of this move as well. So I know that, you ultimately throw your vote onto Josh at this point, even though you know where the vote's going. But I want to kind of ask you about your perspective because, you do get a lot of credit for this move as well in blindsiding Sarah.
Yeah, so I remember the night before. So we had that Taylor wins that captain's challenge, and then they're like, the next vote will be in the morning, going into the final day. So Rocky and I were talking, and Rocky had mentioned that like Sarah has been taking a lot of notes, and like we obviously see that Sarah wins that comp with literally off of one, like off one, like and literally like amazing. Um, and so I felt like it's getting to a point where people are going to start seeing, instead of Ozzy and Sarah as like a duo, they're going to see me and Sarah as a duo. And there's going to be a point where they're going to go after one of us, or both of us, and just hope that they get one of us out. So from my perspective, I was like, I think I need to separate myself from Sarah. We've been playing the game since night one, day one, and like we've had some bump in the roads, but we've always came together and been like, yes, this happened, but like, how do we make sure that we can propel ourselves forward? So there came a point where Rocky and I were talking, and Rocky and Josh were talking and kind of just like getting back into good graces. And I thought it would be a better move to keep Josh for one more round because everyone's gonna want Josh out. Everyone's gonna like Josh's the time is going all the way down to 0 pretty quickly, but it's just like when can we get Josh out? So I knew I needed to separate myself from Sarah. So I thought, let's come up with a plan that because everyone was so like everyone was the six heard around the world. Like, going to final six with honestly 3 duos, if we're being completely honest, me and Rocky, Taylor and AJ, or you can even flip that, like Taylor and Rocky, me and AJ, and Sarah and Ozzy. And I felt like I needed to kind of distance myself from this duo narrative because if you go to the end with a duo, like your games are going to be like right next to each other, and they're going to try to see how you can differentiate yourself from the other person. So that's why I was like, okay, I talked to Rocky, I talked to Josh, and that was like it was weird because like Rocky and Josh had literally just not
Screamed
even
at each other.
yeah, literally that morning screaming at each other. Like and now they're coming back together. And I didn't know if it was gonna work, but I was like, this is the plan. But I wanted it to happen, but I never wanted to be the one to write Sarah's name down. I did it once, and obviously like we saw where that went with Billy, but like I was like, I don't want to write Sarah's name down again. One, because we're in the jury phase. So like potentially if I don't vote Sarah, there's the potential that, oh, Marcelo didn't vote me, like there's good grace there. But there was another split vote, like the 3-2-1 that needed to be like calculated very specifically because I knew Ozzy wasn't gonna vote Sarah. Obviously Sarah's not gonna vote herself. And then Josh isn't gonna vote himself. And then you have Rocky, me, Taylor, and AJ. So it was like I knew that us four were gonna make a plan to make sure that I'll throw my vote on Josh. Y'all throw your votes on Sarah. And like even if it messed up, even if someone threw a vote, it's still going to be 4-3. Josh goes. Like obviously, not the not the not the number one plan, but so yeah, I will say I didn't take credit for that move because I at the time I was like, oh, like I don't know like if that's going to affect my game or not, but yeah, I felt like I needed to separate myself from Sarah, so that's when me and Rocky kind of came up with that plan.
And so when I was talking to Sarah, she mentioned during the votes being read that she's next to you and she's like, kind of asks you like, is it me or whatnot? And you're like, I don't know. Um, did you ever have any worry? Because we see this in Big Brother sometimes where, famously, Paul, you know, twice, he gets to the end and he, in the goodbye messages, pretends like he doesn't know what's happening. And once the jury talks to each other, they they get mad at him. So I
Yeah.
was like, is this gonna come back to and bite Marcelo in the ass? Um, kind of pretending not to know what happened as she's getting voted out. Did that ever come across your mind, or were you? But it seems like you were kind of genuine in not voting her, right?
Oh, 100%. I was not going to vote her.
Yeah.
I just it was not like something that I wanted to do. I knew she was going, but I'm not like I didn't want to blindside her from my end. I knew she was getting blindsided, but I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm the one who like voted you. Um, no, but it did cross my mind because I was like, Sarah's about to go into the jury where we just voted out CJ, so CJ's not the biggest fan of me right now. Blindsided Kira, so maybe Kira's not the biggest fan of me now. So it's like, and you have to know that like jurors talk. It's not like you sit in silence for 5 hours until the finale. Like they're gonna discuss. So I don't my theatrics and my dramatics of being like, oh my god, not Sarah, no, please stop, turn the cameras off. I don't know why I did that. I really don't. Like that was just like dramatic to a T. Like I was like, Marcelo, I'm watching it back. I was like with my friends, and my friends were like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, I don't know. But I do remember Sarah and I are like holding hands, and she's like, am I getting blindsided? And I said, I don't know. I don't I don't know why I said I don't know at that moment because obviously no powers have been played. Like I could have been like, yes, and that might have earned a little more grace. But Sarah said that like game respects game. So I think like understanding the move, But yes, I was definitely nervous that there was going to be some aftermath for that.
Yeah, I think I was laughing too when you were kind of giving a little dramatic exit. But I think obviously Sarah game respects game. You can kind of tell that's the player that she is, but the wrong person, I feel like you could have maybe
Oh,
lost.
if it was anyone else, I feel like I would have I would have heard the last of it. Yeah.
Um I'm gonna skip ahead because the next couple votes are pretty cut and clear with
Yeah.
Josh and Ozzy. Um Final four, you guys
Yeah.
get there. AJ wins. Um, Comp Beast AJ wins there. Were you ever scared that the vote was going to turn onto you? There's only three people left. It could easily have turned onto you. Um, and we see in the episode, I'm not sure if you were aware of a kind of discussion with Taylor and Rocky about, what, why is it us? We could just both vote Marcelo here. Did you ever have any awareness that those talks were happening, or did you ever feel, in danger here?
So when AJ won, well, because we all know my comp ability. Like we know I'm like the comp piece of the season. Like I threw everything, obviously. No, but that final four challenge was a hot mess for me, like fully. Um, they, they were like, oh,
I didn't want to bring that up. I didn't want to bring it
oh
up,
no, I'll
but
bring it up. Don't worry. They were like, it might take 2 hours because last season it took a long time. No, it took like 15 minutes, and I was still like, I was like, I don't know. Like, I felt like I was Keaton during that challenge where the twine was just like getting all fucked up, and I was like, oh my gosh.
use your teeth. Use your teeth.
I was like, should I just grab it? Like, what if I just like extend it? Like, would they care? Probably. Yeah, use your teeth. Gosh, that was a journey. We'll get there. But there was so last season two. So this is final four is when my literal best friend, Hot Girl Chris, got sent home. So like in fire and like all that type of stuff. So for me, I always had thought I just did a 3-2-1. I just did a 4-3. What if I do a 2-1-1? That was like, and that was because I never wanted to vote Rocky out. Rocky and I, from the beginning of the game, like we literally like it was just like we have such a bond in the game that we were like we're never writing each other's names down. Like we're not voting each other out. And Taylor and I obviously had our bond that I was never intending to break ever. Like I never wanted to vote Taylor. Her and I were the only two people that had our names never written down at this point. So when it comes down to the discussion period, AJ's like, I think we need to vote Rocky out. Oh, I think we need to vote Taylor out. And then going to Rocky and saying, like, AJ's thinking about voting you out. Like, it was kind of, but I'm not. Like, I kept assuring Rocky, like, I'm not voting you out. Like, I'm not doing that to you. I'm not gonna make that a thing. And then AJ, like, I guess honestly, Duke, I wish I could tell you, like, oh, I knew I wasn't gonna get any votes. Like, I didn't. Like, I in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm in a room with AJ right now. Taylor and Rocky are in a room. They could fully be like, okay, the two of us just vote Marcelo, and it's a 2-1-1, and that's the game. And
I
Final
think during
Four
the
is
episode, you say to AJ, they could be talking about me right now.
yeah. So I was like, they could fully be talking about me right now. So like, I need to like, thank you AJ for not voting me. You're voting Rocky, but like, I need to make sure that
Yeah.
these people know what's happening. So um talking to Rocky, assuring Rocky, like, I'm not voting you. Rocky said he's not voting me. And then talking to Taylor, like, that was hard because Taylor was someone who, again, I walking in had no idea who Taylor was. Taylor and I formed this connection from the beginning of the game all the way to this end game. Like, and I knew that Taylor was someone that I always knew Taylor was someone that was good at this game. Like, Taylor had a story. If Taylor got to the end, like, she could take this home. And that was another thing. I was like, I need to think about who in the jury is going to vote me over Taylor, me over AJ, me over Rocky. And Rocky and I just like kind of have made moves together. Taylor and I have made moves together, but like Rocky and I, it was just like we had something going that we were just like, you and I are the final two. Like, let's make it happen. So yeah, I thought they were gonna 2-1-1 me, and I was like wow. And then seeing that conversation on the fireplace. I almost said fire escape. I do live in New York City. Fireplace, like that could have happened. So I'm glad it didn't, but like it was definitely a thought. And I felt like I'm very happy that because you see in the episode Rocky telling Taylor, like, I think I'm voting you because like you're such a good player and like you have a story at the end. Like it's gonna be something that like you can't really defend yourself against. So um I'm just happy that Rocky and Taylor didn't flip on me. So,
It seems like Rocky shut it down. So it shout out to Rocky. Um he ultimately
love
takes
you.
the final he gets knocked out in the face off here.
Yeah.
But those are always so much fun to watch. I think I saw a picture on Facebook of you and AJ, in the corner there watching the face off happen.
Yeah.
Was that crazy or what?
It was insane. When I tell you, because literally not even an hour before Taylor and Ozzy had that altercation. Wasn't an altercation. That like bump, and then like Taylor's toe is like literally like black and blue, like bleeding. And I didn't realize that like the face off was gonna be the same thing, like as season two, but like when they were like, "Oh, you're gonna do this challenge that you're gonna build something with your feet." I look to AJ and I'm like, I am the worst person in the world right now. Like, I'm literally like, I sent this poor girl to fire where her toe is literally like the nail is hanging off the toe. Like, like, it was, yeah. Sorry for the visuals, people. But it was just one of those things where I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And watching it, like,
Were
watching
you
it
were you
back.
were you like Rocky, take your shoes off, brother?
Yes, 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 yes. I was like, Rocky, take your shoes off. Like, I understand, like, you don't want the world to see your feet, but like, do it for 5 seconds and like get the win. Like, get it. It
They could
was
blur
like,
that out in post.
yes, tell them to blur it out in post. But it was like, I think that was, once I saw that, I was like, because Rocky almost had it at one point, and
Yeah.
like Rocky almost did, and then it fell, and then I think that, and then Taylor picked up the momentum, and I have to give all the credit to Taylor. That was incredible. Like watching, I'm obviously like I'm Rocky and I had a moment before the elimination where Rocky was like, "Just vote me." I don't want to like go to fire. Like I don't think I'm gonna win, but I was like, I can't just do that. Like as a human being, like me and Rocky just have this thing where like our friendship is like, I'm not gonna let you go down without me like having a say. Like I want you to be there. I want you to fight. And I'm happy that Rocky, like obviously sad that Rocky left at that point, but like I'm happy that it was still a fight to the bitter end.
Yeah, he
But a
gave it.
lot to watch. It was wild to watch. While watching it, like it went by fast. Like y'all were like, oh great. No, watching it live, Duke, that was this like it felt like 30 minutes. It felt so, and I was just like, I'm like, is this the end of my game? Like, if Taylor comes back, like, I am screwed. Like, I just sent her to fire. If Brocky stays, like, is this good for me? So, a lot of emotions going through my head.
A lot of emotions, and how blessed are we as an audience to get to see back to back iconic face-offs, very back and forth, on the edge of our seats, as were the contestants trying to put the flag
Yes.
in the hole.
Yes.
But Marcelo, you end up losing another two competitions.
Are we
Um,
surprised?
so your hands are, the fate is in, other people's hands.
Yeah.
So as you were kind of, watching the final part of this final three challenge, are like, are you thinking about, okay, who do I want to win? You know, who's best to win for me? Am I going to get to the end? I know you mentioned that you felt like, you had a good shot of either taking you, but what were you thinking in that moment?
So when I lost part one, which I knew I wasn't gonna win, because I was like, these colors, huh? What?
Yeah,
So I wasn't. Yeah, that was.
you needed Sarah's notebook.
I needed Sarah's. I need Sarah's notebook. No, literally, like I was like, okay, I know the order. I know the order of elimination. I think I know the order of the comps. Once they were like, put the captain colors, I was like, y'all, I'm just, and like they kept coming up. They were like, you can check like every like couple of minutes, and I was like, I don't even know what's happening, but whatever. So I lost that. So losing part two, I thought my game was over. Losing part two, I was like, this is probably where Taylor takes AJ, AJ takes Taylor, because they clearly have been working together since the beginning of the game. They've done a lot of moves together. Like there's something that could be said for the both of them. Like they take each other, loyalty, all that. But the final like the jury questioning, like the final like three challenge where it was jury answer, whatever.
Yep.
I wanted Taylor to win because I felt like there was a slight hope that potentially Taylor could take me. Um, why? Because I knew I'm gonna be completely honest, if I went to the end with AJ, AJ has a story. AJ was voted out. AJ fought his way back and has won comps after comps after comps after comp. Like that, there's something to be said about that. So I was like, if Taylor wins and Taylor takes me, we both have an equal opportunity because we both played the game. Like we both everyone kind of put us in like this middle situation where like no one knew like where exactly we stood or this, that, and the other. So once Taylor won, I was like hoping. But I will say, I was listening to that comp like a hawk. I was listening to every word said in that comp. I got to give a big shout out to Ozzy, because Ozzy answering that question of whose game do you respect the most? And when he said his answer was AJ, I hooked my claws into that. And I was like, that's my last ditch effort to get to the end. Is if Ozzy respects AJ's game that much, Ozzy's probably voting AJ at the end if Taylor takes AJ.
Yeah, and during the coverage that I had with Sam, I gave you kudos on those. I was like, that was a good little sneak that in there at the last second, just to kind of maybe make her question it. So kudos to you on that. And ultimately, Taylor does decide to take you to the end. You mentioned, you had perceived that you guys had been playing a similar style of game. I want to ask you about, watching the episode and seeing the jury roundtable. Was there, just watching that back, did you feel like, you know, maybe maybe going into it, I was, a slight underdog? Or do you feel like that they were being pretty open to either of you?
I think they were being pretty open to either of us. I felt like they were, I was really like, obviously, like nervous to watch the jury roundtable because I was like, obviously, I don't know what was said. So, like, I want to hear everything. And I give that jury a lot of like kudos and like love and respect, because it didn't feel like anyone was like, oh, like, I'm not even going to listen to Marcelo, or, oh, I'm not even going to listen to Taylor. It was like, I just want to hear their games. Like, I just want them to own it. And I feel like, I know you had talked about like Sarah kind of was like pro me, which like I definitely got out of the jury roundtable, which I was like, oh, wow. Like, because I thought like walking into that final, I was like, I feel like Sarah is probably someone who, yes, respects the game, but like, again, going back to talking to other jurors, like there could be things that Sarah could hear from me or Sarah could hear about me that like could turn a new leaf or something, or just like turn off. Um, But all in all, I really respected all of them and how much they kind of just like they really just wanted to hear us own our games.
So one of the best finale performances I think I've seen. Many of the jurors have said that as well. So many huge moments from you, so many huge, a couple of really defining, speeches that you give and kind of just overall moments that I think really definitely, won you votes. And I wanted to ask first, was the hierarchy reference planned going in?
No,
No, you came
no,
up with that on the spot.
I came up with that on the spot.
Wow.
Yeah, when CJ said that the biggest snake is still in the game, I was like, if that's how you're going to perceive me, I'm going to own it. If you think I'm the biggest snake in the game, well, I'm the biggest snake in the game. And what my mind does is it runs like a mile a minute. Like thoughts just like run through my mind and like I just got to grab one and see what happens. And I was like literally looking at the jury and I was like, I'm the snake and there's 9 people on the jury. I just won hierarchy. Like I beat my win condition. So I was like, let me use that. Let's take a flashback to hierarchy and how the snake needs 9 kills to win the game. There's 9 people up there. But yeah, that was not planned. That just like came.
That was iconic. I thought that was mentioned, I think in AJ's when he's giving his vote, he mentions that. I think somebody else had mentioned it as a moment that really was defining.
Yeah.
But speaking of CJ, I wanted to ask you about his question to you was very just upfront, one word answer. Did you kind of stone cold just answered it? Was that shocking to you at all?
Um, Leading up to like when it was like, oh CJ, it's your turn. I was not expecting that. And then go because I've I've seen final tribal councils, I've seen final 2 performances where it's like if someone wants you to say one word,
They
just
really
say the
just want.
word. Yeah, you don't need to explain yourself. So yeah, it was once CJ was like just one word, like who was your closest ally? Like I was just like, okay, I'm gonna say one word. If you want me to explain more, you're gonna be the one to ask me to explain more. I don't have to explain more.
Yeah. I think multiple seasons of Survivor, angry, bitter jurors have asked a question where they just want one word, and the finalist was trying to talk around it and not give one word, and they lost that vote. So I definitely commend you on answering it. Not to say that CJ was bitter at all, but great job on that.
Thank you.
After like watching it back, I guess in the moment, not watching it back, but in the moment, did you feel like there was any questions that you not fumbled but didn't give a great answer for, or do you think that you kind of hit the nail on the head with most of the jury questioning?
I think I hit the nail on the head with the majority of the jury questioning. I'm trying to think of like I think I fumbled in the beginning, but if we know good football references, when you fumble, you can always get the ball back. So like
Recovery.
Recovery, thank you. Sports, obviously I know it. Comp beast over here. But like Josh's question about like what was the biggest risk, I felt like my answer was the final four situation was like kind of my biggest risk. But like I feel like I fumbled because I feel like I should have acknowledged like the Sarah move more. So that's probably like the only thing that could have been a little finessed a little bit clearer, but I think I 99.8% answered all of it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, and the only critique that I had of your finale performance was nearly perfect, I thought, was I would have loved to hear more about the Sarah blindside as well as the Kira blindside, because I felt like those were huge defining moments in the game. And I think Taylor took a little bit of credit for one of them. I
It was
think
the
maybe
Sarah.
the Sarah one, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's interesting because I felt like Marcelo kind of was behind that as well.
Yeah. Rocky had mentioned that after the game, was like, why didn't you say the Sarah move? And I just, again, like you're in there and like you have like, so walking into this, so they had the jury roundtable and Taylor and I were in the other house, just like literally getting ready for the final. And I just remember telling myself, I was like, just own everything, because playing these online games, like I've been to a final tribal where like you just like I've apologized for stuff, being like, oh yeah, I blindsided you, like hope you don't take that, like so sorry, like this, that, and the other. But I was like, no, like the game is still going on. Like the game isn't over. Like there's still a game to be played. So like own your stuff. Like especially like owning moves that people don't think that you did, like but you did, like own it. So I just didn't want to apologize for anything. I just wanted to say what was on my mind, and like however they took it is however they took it.
And so after everything, they're going to cast their votes. Uh, how did you feel? Did you feel like you had the win here, or did you feel like I don't know what's going to happen here?
I was confident that I felt like I had the win here, because I felt like that hierarchy comment kind of was like the nail to like the win, like was like the last throw to like the Hail Mary. There it is.
Yes.
But no, I felt like that. I felt like that was something. And then another thing that was kind of giving me hope was that like I made sure to like acknowledge each juror and like my connection to them. So I felt like there was like that type of energy. So I didn't think it was going to be unanimous at any point. I thought like I honestly thought it was going to be a 5-4, um, because I felt like I had some. I felt like I had some votes, but also like AJ and Rocky were two people that I thought they could go either way. So I mean, I was confident that I was going to win, but like that's just me being confident in myself. But again, I told Taylor, like, if you win, I win. Like, there's no losing here for me.
I do also want to give you kudos. I think another huge defining moment, and I really wanted to make sure that this was a part of this podcast, was the point where somebody asks you, I think it's Rory. Rory asks both of you, what does this moment mean to you? I think
Yeah,
that your response to that was almost unfollow upable from
yeah,
Taylor. So I think that might have been some icing on the cake as well as the hierarchy reference.
yeah.
Um, but you
Thank you.
mentioned you're welcome. You mentioned Rocky and AJ being votes that could go either way. You don't get CJ and Ali's vote. When you say you thought it was going to be 5-4, would you say that you thought maybe those were the four you were not going to get?
Um, I didn't know. Honestly, I had no idea where Ali was voting. Like, I fully was like,
Not sure if he did. I'm just
who
kidding.
knows?
Love him.
No, I love Ali, but I had no idea where Ali was voting, because I felt like Ali was kind of just like Ali didn't. Taylor and I both said like Ali didn't really work with us. Like it was kind of just like Ali was. We didn't vote him out. Like literally, like everyone in the jury, we voted out. Ali, we didn't. So I didn't know where Ali was voting. Um, and CJ, I kind of felt like was more leaning towards not voting me. So I wasn't surprised that CJ didn't vote me. Um, but yeah, I felt like I feel like Rory, Ozzy, and Sarah were like the three votes that I felt like I had.
Love that, yeah.
So like that was the three votes I felt like were locks for me. But the others, like even Josh, I didn't know where Josh was voting, because he had connections with both of us, and like we both blindsided him. Well, not blindsided him, but we both voted him out. But other than that, yeah, I didn't think that. Yeah, I really like it was a flexible jury. Like I didn't think that anyone was leaning specifically towards me or specifically towards Taylor.
Yeah. You ultimately get, 7-2, the win here. I think you did a split, right?
I did a death drop.
Death drop.
They didn't show it, but I did it.
Okay. I think I might have seen you do a split somewhere
That's
on your
okay.
Instagram or something. Somewhere.
Oh yeah, on my Instagram. Shout out Ozzy. Thank you for taking me to drag brunch. Thank you.
So I might have got those two things mixed up, but very similar. But Marcelo, those are all the questions I have for you at the moment regarding your game. Is there anything that we, haven't talked about that you want to touch on?
I want to touch on this can be like a 5-second conversation. I'm just thankful that Prod showed that moment where I'm standing outside alone, waiting for Rocky and Keaton to run out and help me to get to Ozzy and Taylor. I was like getting ready to slay. Like you see Rocky run, like, and when you see it on camera, like Rocky runs. No, y'all, Rocky like teleported from one spot to the next. Like it was impressive. And I'm standing there and I'm seeing all these groups like run out the door. None of them are my group. And I'm like, because I was like, oh my God, like Rocky is in the lead. Keaton can just get the lead and then I can get there. And then Taylor and Ozzy can, like, I'm going to win a challenge. Like, I'm going to win. But we all know how that ended. So, did not win. But it was.
But, you won the game, which is what matters the most.
I won the game. So, yeah.
Marcel, my final question for you is what was your favorite part of the entire experience? It doesn't have to be, anything regarding the game. It might be. It could be the shenanigans afterwards.
I love how you asked this question because it like really is important to me because it was meeting these people, the group of people. Like, it's funny. Adam obviously was first boot, so I didn't really get a chance to talk to Adam throughout the game. Like we talked after the game, and like he had the Adam Michael Kennedy curse, where if you vote him out, you're not going to win the game. I voted him out, and I won the game.
The curse has ended.
The curse has ended.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'll take my payments through Venmo. I will post it in the link above.
I'll have that in there.
But no, Adam and I had a really nice conversation where it was just like it wasn't about game. It was just about life and like talking to everyone and like after and I'm still talking to these people like to this day. Like we're fully very much all talking and blowing up the Skype chat and Snapchat group and all that type of stuff. And like that's why I play these games is to like meet new people and to curate these friendships that like mean a lot to me. And everyone that played this game, whether like I talk to them every day or talk to them once every couple days, like everyone means so much to me. Like everyone was a part of my journey in this game. And I can't thank Maddie. I can't thank Papa. I can't thank Nicole. I can't thank all of Prod enough because like it's funny, this game truly like changed my life. Like this game, I know it's not like it wasn't for $1 million, but like that's not why I came to play it. Like I even said before when in my preseason interview with you, I was like, at the end of the day, like whatever happens, I got on to Ascendance Live season 3. Like if I get out first, if I win the game, like it's the experience that I'm excited for, and the experience was everything I could ever imagine plus more.
Well, Marcelo, I appreciate you, taking the time to do the exit interview. I enjoyed watching you play this game. I've given you enough kudos, throughout the podcast. Fantastic speeches, fantastic finale performance. I think the best finale performance we've seen in the game so far. And yeah, just a guy you want to get a drink with.
Just a guy you want to get a drink with.